Hi, Britt. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So excited. I've been like bragging about you to everyone I know recently.
Oh boy.
So I'm really excited to share you with my audience today. Before we get started, I'd love for you to just kind of give us a quick background story on how Reiki came into your life, because I love what
Yeah.
you shared with me.
Oh, well, ever since I was small, I'm from Hawaii. So ever since I was little, my mom was really open to this, different healing modalities. So I'll hear from her different things and she would take me to different healing practitioners, especially like Lomi Lomi or Hawaiian healers.
Mhm.
And growing up, as I got older, some of them would say to me, "Oh, you have something. You can do what I do," or they would, you know, say, "So you have something with your hands." And I would just think, "Oh, maybe they're just saying this to everybody, but whatever." So I was always open to healing. I was always open to energy, to the mind, visualization, hypnosis, things like that. But I never thought I would be sitting here in front of you talking about this, and this would be something I do for a living and my passion. I never thought that would be the case. So I've been always open to this, but I was diagnosed at 20 years old with ulcerative colitis. And I knew no one at the time that was my age that had it. Everyone I heard was like 55 or older. I probably had more colonoscopies than most people, more than anyone my age, that I know. Um, so I was diagnosed with that at 20, and I'm 36 now. So it's been a very interesting learning about the body and healing and the mind and how all this is connected, and stress
Mm,
and how that affects the body. And so I was always looking for something to help me,
mm,
help myself. And back in 2013, or actually back in 2012, was probably the worst health year of my life. I ended up in the hospital here in Oakland for a week. My body was shutting down. I had to quit my job. All these things were happening because my colon was inflamed
mm,
big time. And doctors didn't know what to do to get it to calm down. They gave me all types of medication, which I think were counteracting, in fact. And so the body just started shutting down. You can't really die from ulcerative colitis, but you can die from your body reacting certain ways to medications and starting to shut down. So that was a really big moment in my life. And they were going to take my colon out. And the doctor said to me, "That's the only answer that I have for you."
mm,
I said, "So you mean there's no other way that we can heal my colon?" They're like, "No, it's so inflamed, we have to take it out." And nothing about what they said resonated with me, like nothing.
mm,
I was like, that can't be the only way. And so I asked them to give me a few days to think about it. So I'm in the hospital. I tell them I don't want to see any doctors for the weekend. I just want to be left alone. Only the nurses could come in. And I had a lot of, I guess, epiphanies that you could call it, or downloads from spirit, from guides.
yeah.
And I was like, no, I got myself in this mess. I can get myself out of this. I stressed out so much that my body reacted this way.
Mhm,
And if I can find solutions to help my stress and anxiety, I think I can turn this around for myself
mhm,
with my colon still in my body.
mhm,
So that was the aha moment I needed. And I made some decisions that weekend, and my vitals started turning around, and the doctors came in on Monday and they couldn't believe how my blood work just was so much better.
mhm,
And they ended up letting me leave the hospital. And from that point forward, I started looking into hypnosis and energy healing more to help myself.
mhm,
And it
mhm,
really started to help me. And then the big moment of when I realized I could do Reiki was in 2013 when my grandma had a stroke. And she should have died. Like, my mom didn't find her till 10 hours after she had the stroke. And the doctors on Maui, they don't have the best healthcare there.
mhm,
So they're going to let her die. And my mom's like, no, medevac her to Oahu, to Queen's Hospital. And as she was in the hospital in a coma, my mom and my relatives had a meeting outside in the waiting room. And I was in there with my grandma by myself, just watching her, praying. And I heard something tell me, stand by her head
mhm,
and place your hands like this
mhm,
over her head.
mhm,
And so I didn't question it. I just did it. And nobody was there to judge me, right? I'm in the room by myself with my grandma. she's in a coma. So it was like the only moment, like no one else was in there really. No visitors, no nurses. So I walk over and I place my hands over her head, and then they tell me what to visualize. They tell me to visualize this white light coming down from God, from source, whatever you want to call higher power, coming through me into my heart and then out my hands. And then they told me to visualize white light just coming out of my hands and going into my grandma's head, and just visualize her head healing. A minute later or so, she started twitching. Her arm, like her right side, started twitching. And so I run outside and I grab my husband and I was like, come here. And he's like, what? And so I go back in the room and I was like, just watch. And I'm getting chills as I'm telling this story, because it was the game changer for me. For me to actually experience and see that I could do it. And so I put my hands over her and she twitched again. And my husband's like, oh my God, just keep doing that. I don't know what you're doing. Just keep doing that. And 2 days later, she came out of the coma. So she was my first client, I would say, because I practiced on her, and she's still alive. She's in a nursing home. This is like 7 years later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she's still alive. She's outlived so many people that came to see her and thought she was going to die. She outlived so many roommates already in the nursing home. So her life force energy is still really, really strong.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. So for like some of our listeners who are like, okay, that sounds wild, that sounds crazy. Like, what is Reiki? I mean, probably some people I think most of us have an understanding of what it is. But for those of you who don't know, we're going to give you like a quick definition. But I wanted Britt to explain her story, because it's going to make so much more sense as to why Reiki is so beneficial and kind of the benefits that it can have. So I'll read a definition and then I'm going to have Britt kind of explain it in her own words. So Reiki is like a form of therapy. Some people call it energy medicine, and it uses simple, no-touch visualization techniques, like she said. The goal of it is to improve our life energy in a person. It's Japanese, which I love. I'm half Japanese. And I think that's why I was so drawn to Reiki kind of in the first place. But really what it does is helps alleviate any problems of energy flow, physical, emotional, and spiritual, which is also why I went to go see Britt in the first place. And I'll tell that story a little bit later. But, with that definition, is there anything that you want to add to that would help people sort of click into like what Reiki really is?
So the best way is when you're stressed or when you feel anxious or you feel sick, your life force energy is low. Or if you had a lot of trauma in your life that hasn't been addressed and that shows up in certain areas of your life. So when our life force energy is low, it's easier for us to get sick, to stay in a place of sadness, or to stay in a place of, depression and things like that. If our life force energy is strong and we feel grounded and we feel good, it's much easier to be happy and healthy and just have stronger connections and with nature, with people, with everything like that. And we all need a tune-up every once in a while, because life's like this, right? Good and bad and stressful times and things like that. So I just want to help people to heal themselves. So every time somebody thanks me, oh my God, I feel so much better, thank you, I actually thank them, because we worked together to make that happen. So they have to be open and receptive to the healing, right? And so I feel like we're working together and their body is getting that boost that it needs to heal itself. The cells in the body and the things that need to release. I can tell from what people tell me what their chronic illness is or things like that. I can already tell what chakras, what energy centers I have to work over. If someone says I have a hard time speaking my truth, or I have some thyroid issues and things like that, I'm like, okay, we need to focus on the throat. Someone like me, ulcerative colitis, IBS, Crohn's, okay, that's solar plexus. So I can already tell what energy centers that are backed up or depleted just by talking to somebody. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because that was like part of your story. You're like, if I had stressed out so much and did this to my body, then I can also heal myself too.
Yes.
I work with a lot of women who have competed, who have dieted, and a lot of them have blocked feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any sort of like physical signs that you see or have worked with people where it's like a pinpoint, like, oh, okay, like really got to work on what chakra to unblock feminine energy? Do you have any like?
Thinking the sacral, for that to be expressed more, and sacral, is our woman parts,
Yeah.
and that's our creative expressive part as well, and that's always kind of connected to the throat because
Mhm.
both are our expressive points. So if I had to work on one area, I would always work on the other one too to make sure they weren't backed up, so they
Mhm.
can express themselves, more, and maybe even the heart
Mhm.
chakra too, more emotion, more feeling, more being in their feelings and understanding and expressing their feelings.
Mhm.
So I think I would work in those areas. I mean, I always give everyone a nice cleanse everywhere, but I do spend extra time over those energy centers that, feel blocked or, depleted. And it's something you can actually feel with your hand. You can actually feel sensations in your hand that kind of guide you to where to work.
Mhm.
And some people do hands-on Reiki. I just prefer hands-off. I do hands-on when I work on myself or my family members, like my husband or my son. But my clients prefer actually hands-off, and they can still feel everything as I'm working on them. It's just preference. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. I got certified through Britt, and it was like the most amazing experience of my life. I loved it.
Yes.
I've been incorporating it into my online coaching programs through like distance healing and just doing
Right.
it on my animals and myself. And I did it on my mom recently, my biological mom. So the reason why I reached out to you was
Hmm.
because I had been going to a lot of therapy, doing like talk therapy about my family trauma.
Right.
That all originated because of the post competition trauma that happened as a result of over dieting, over exercising. I used competing as a band aid for my inner child wounds. and and I just felt like I needed something more. It was kind of like I've done so much stuff, and I hear this a lot from my audience where it's like I'm doing the journaling, I'm going to therapy, I have coaching, but I still don't feel confident. I still feel like I can't express my truth. I still feel like I'm not good enough. And that's why I went to you to seek energy work. Could you kind of explain like how trauma does get lodged in the body? So like that mind body connection of trauma, and then how Reiki can benefit us?
I'll give you an example. I have a lot of women that have been sexually abused or sexually assaulted, whether in their teens or even younger. And they have a hard time, like with the sacral area,
Mhm.
um, that sometimes has already have, maybe like something wrong there already, or maybe they're trying to have kids and that's been hard, or maybe they had cancer there, where it's already showing up, right? Because it's so backed up that it started to show up as a chronic condition in those places. And so the body does hold on to trauma, especially if it wasn't expressed,
Mm.
right? And so, for example, when someone has been abused and they didn't speak up about it right away, and they held on to that for 15 years, maybe told no one, that's still in the body,
Mm.
right? And that's now affecting throat and your sacral because it wasn't expressed. That pain wasn't expressed. That energy wasn't released. And you can't heal if it's just trapped in your body. That like the first step is to kind of like tell your story and release it, right? In
Mhm.
in a in a way that you're not hurting someone else,
Mhm.
you know, um, in a productive way, I guess you could say. And so I see that it's still bothering a person, and I talk to people and I wait almost all the way till sometimes halfway through the session. I'm waiting for them to explain that part because I can just tell from what they're telling me is bothering them.
Mhm.
I know that there's a story behind there as to why the energy is trapped there. And I think after they start trusting, and we're maybe an hour into the session or 45 minutes in, they start telling me, yeah, when I was 5, when I was 3, or whatever, this happened to me.
Mhm.
And I told someone and no one believed me,
Mm.
or I never told anyone, right? And so that trauma is still there, you know. There's even generational trauma. I was working with someone who, um, her mom had a lot of trauma while she was carrying her in the womb.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a baby, she was feeling that stress and trauma that the mom was going through. So we have to work through that
Mm.
as well. So, you know, energy is a real thing. Like there's a life force energy flowing through all of us to keep us alive.
Mm-hmm.
Through plants, through animals, through humans, you know, there's energy all around us. That's like when someone goes to a grocery store and they walk past someone, they're like, oh,
Yeah. You
oh,
get
oh, right? That's
yeah.
energy. That's something like that's a tangible actual feeling that you're like, that feels yucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny when people don't believe in energy because I'm like, that's actually what's running through us, keeping us alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and so it does get trapped in the body if it's not expressed, not worked through, you know, not healed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like life coaching is important to pair along with my Reiki, because everyone has something to talk about.
Yes.
Everyone has something to talk through, and that's how I can help understand what their story is and what they've been through.
Mm-hmm.
So I do start off all my clients with a 2-hour life coaching and Reiki session.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also to build trust, because the more you trust and connect with someone, the more open you are to the healing.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important too.
Yeah. I love that. Someone who's listening right now is like, oh shit, like I've got trauma in my body and I can feel
Right,
it.
right.
And maybe they don't have access to someone who they can get Reiki from like right away, or maybe it's like a financial thing. What is one thing they can do right now to feel better?
This something that's really overlooked is getting outdoors in nature and grounding. Um, every time someone feels off and they come into my office and they're stressed or whatever, I'm like, oh, when's the last time you went outside, been in nature, and in a happy place, right? Some people like the forest, some people like the river. I like the ocean, right? And just take your shoes off and put your feet in the sand or walk on grass and just ground for a minute and feel the heartbeat, honestly, the heartbeat of Mother Earth, right? Our mother, right? Our mother of all things, and connect with her and ground and give yourself 20, 30 minutes to just be, or you don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to do anything. And you can just be present and appreciate the birds chirping, the breeze coming through, you know, and just be and ground and connect. And it kind of helps you just get perspective and just, you know, fully feel your breath and feel everything in you. And your head's not, you know, what am I doing 3 days from now? Or, you know, what does this boss want me to do that I didn't get done yet, or whatever. Just coming back to yourself and giving yourself that space and time to just be. If you can't get out in nature, maybe do it in your room or something, somewhere that feels pretty sacred and special for you and comfortable. But if you can get outside, it's just amazing. Or put your back up against a tree and feel the tree's heartbeat. Yes, trees have heartbeats too.
Oh, I
So
love that. That's so nice.
yeah,
Ever since I met you, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make that commitment to like be out in nature more. And we have grass in the front yard, but not the backyard yet. And now I go outside and I'm barefoot and I'm doing my qigong out there, and like people look at me like I'm crazy, and I love it. I'm just out there grounding. My cat's with me. He loves it. He puts his paws on my feet because I think he can feel the energy and like grounding and like cleansing. So I love that. Energy work doesn't have to be something that you go and pay for. You can
and
literally,
qigong's another cheap way too, right? Because there's a lot of good qigong videos on YouTube, and
yeah.
20 minutes of that is, especially right now with this coronavirus going on, since, you know, this has been all over the news. And I don't want people to panic, but I want people to be educated and be smart.
Mm-hmm.
I think doing qigong every morning is like one of the best things you can do for your immune system.
It's my natural flu shot.
Yeah, it's like getting your flu shot, really, because you're moving all the old buildup and toxins in your body. You're moving it out,
Mm-hmm.
and you're creating more flow and making your life force energy strong.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Tai Chi or Qigong would be great if someone could just follow along on a YouTube video.
I'll link the one that you showed our
Yes,
class
yes.
down in the show notes. I literally go outside and do my qigong like 10 minutes. I've memorized it now, and my husband's always
That's
like,
good.
drink an emergency. And I'm like, no, I did my Qigong. I'm fine.
Yeah. You really feel, stronger. You feel a difference with your energy.
Yeah, it feels good. Like I love taking that 5 to 10 minutes like for myself and my self-care routine. Even if it's in the middle of the day, it doesn't have to be like first thing in the morning, but just taking that intention to be with yourself, which is also a feminine energy thing, being instead of always doing. And that's how we can start to be intentional with our energy and ground and be present and be in gratitude for like who we are and where we're at. I feel like this day and age, I feel like a lot of women listening to this are such high achievers. So they're constantly thinking about that next thing they have to do and then putting this unseen pressure on themselves to be and get things done and to like check things off. And there is no time for self-care.
My mentor, she scolds me sometimes in a good way, because I am that type A, grind it out, make the list, bust your butt, get it done. And she's like, Britt, no matter what, like, I'm so proud of you and you're always going to reach your goals because that's just who you are. But if you let the universe help you sometimes and not feel like you have to always do everything, and hold so tightly and do everything yourself, if you give it some space, if you give your goals some room to breathe and manifest more and match your energy of where you want to be. So that's why taking half an hour a day to do the visualizations and meditation can actually speed up your goals, because your energy is going to vibrate at what you want to attract at that level. And so she tells me, there's a kind of a faster way to get this done if you trust the universe a little bit more. So that's what she reminds me. She always tells me, you're going to get your goals done, but there's a faster way if you just let the universe have a part in it.
And you told me this too.
Yeah.
You told me this at my first session with you, and I was like, the two words that I think kills everyone's growth is I know. And in my head, I was saying to myself, I know. And I was like, you know what? No, I obviously don't know because I'm not embodying it. And I really made like a deep commitment to myself after my session with you to let go and to trust and to surrender. And like, yes, I know I'll reach my goals and I can get there faster, like you said, if I work on my energy and manifest and come at this from a place of like love instead of a place that I need to have this in order to be successful.
It's like a desperate energy almost, like, or like grasping, reaching, versus I'm already there. It's already happening. It's already in alignment with me. It just hasn't revealed itself yet, but it's already in my path. So maybe it'll be June, right? Maybe it'll be July, but I've already aligned my energy with that goal. So it's going to happen. And it says trust that it's already on its way. It's meant for you. It's going to happen for you.
Yeah.
So just coming from that place of trust, I'm working more on that. But I kind of describe it like when Steph Curry's in the flow, or like Clay when he's just having an amazing game and you're like, oh my God, he's passing the ball, he's going to score. When you're in that flow, so you're working hard, but you're allowing also the universe to work with you, right? So many magical things can happen, and very quickly, because the universe wants to work quickly. It wants to move things around for you and align things, in a day, not in a year.
Yes. We can collapse time. Yeah. So for anyone who's like new to manifestation, abundance, I mean, you're probably not too new to it because you're listening to your High Self podcast, but Reiki is just another tool that you can bring in. So whether that being going and seeing a practitioner, someone like Britt, she's in the Bay Area, Oakland, East Bay. You can even do distance Reiki, and also getting certified and doing it to yourself.
Right.
I know you've hosted so many certification classes. Would you say most of the people that go through actually do it for themselves rather than to make it a business?
That's their motivation first and foremost, is working on themselves and their loved ones. Whether it be their animals, their mom, their dad, their significant other, their cousin who's going through a hard time. The motivation is always work on myself and help my immediate family, which is beautiful. And if eventually that's something that they want to do for a business, I have a few students, including you, that have already incorporated it into a business, or some people started from scratch and created their business because they were so drawn that this was how they needed to contribute to the world, was this way. So they left their corporate jobs and started a Reiki business.
Yeah, I met one of them.
Yeah.
What was her name again? She did the singing.
Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so nice. Yeah. So, and I think that's something a lot of people don't know. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that you could get your Reiki certification just for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you told me to practice on my animals because they would give me like the best feedback right away. Which they do. When they don't like it, they like run
They're
away from
so
me.
honest and pure, kids and animals, so pure.
So pure. So that is something for you guys. Like you can get this to just do it on yourself. It is so healing, it's so beneficial, and it just makes you feel good. So like at the end of the day, if you're like, oh, maybe I'll just do a session to try it out, why not? Like just to feel better. And you might not realize it that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes like a week or two later,
Right.
you get that promotion, or like someone comes into your life. Or for me, it was 2 months later, I had a conversation with my stepmom, and I held my boundaries, and I stayed strong, and I spoke from love instead of resentment. And I was strong because Britt asked me, do you think you're strong enough to have the conversation, to do it, to be with them? And I was like, yes. At first I was like, no. I am strong enough. And 2 months later, I had healed. I had been able to show up as my highest self in that situation. And I felt like a lot of the lowercase t trauma that I had with my family that just built up over time was really impacting my potential to be the best person that I could be, and serving my clients to the best potential. So that's that's what I loved about working with you and continuing to work with you.
The funny thing is that Reiki is now looked at like a therapeutic use, but initially it was for your own spiritual enlightenment. It was to work on yourself spiritually. That was the original intent of this. So every time you do Reiki on yourself, or you come and see me for a session, there's going to be more spiritual growth, and people tell me like, I'm so sensitive now, I can feel more. And I'm like, that's kind of what happens when you do a lot of Reiki. You are going to be sensitive to energy even more. And I help my students and I help my clients, so they don't take on other people's energy. A lot of people who come to see me are empaths, and they can feel what people around them are feeling, right? And while that's a gift, we need to know how to manage that gift so we're not overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people I
Yeah.
talk to are like, I'm so, I don't know what to do. What's one solid thing they can do in order to help protect their energy?
Well, the grounding for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then like in the Reiki class, I teach you how to sweep and clean yourself.
The dry bath.
Yeah. Dry bath. I love using salt. Salt is very purifying. That's also why I like the beach and like to get into the beach. It's hard here. Back home in Hawaii, it was much easier for me to dip in the ocean and cleanse, but I take salt showers now. So I just take salt in my shower and just scrub on my body, and imagine that anything that's not a part of me, that's not my energy or no longer good for my highest self, it's just going to go down the drain. So it's coming up with rituals or a routine, right? Energy hygiene routine, if you would call it. And it's something that you can easily do every day. So I'm like, okay, I shower every day. Why don't I just put salt in my shower and scrub myself? Because I usually work on clients every day, almost every day. And just make sure that like I'm coming home and it's just my energy, right? I'm not carrying everyone's burdens from the day.
I love that. Yeah, and that first tip of like actually going outside and grounding yourself, because Britt has taught me that Mother Earth, she's the only one that can actually recycle energy. So we give her all the negative energy that's not serving us, and then she can recycle it into something positive.
She's the best at transforming it. Yeah, and that's her job. That's actually her job, is to transform that negative energy back into positive. And that's what people don't realize, is that when we talk about energy, energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed or transferred. So like I think I was telling you before, like if someone's driving on the freeway really pissed off, right, and then does something and cut someone off, now made that person pissed off, I'm watching the transfer of energy, right, from one upset person, maybe they had a bad day at work, cut someone off because they're upset. Now this person's mad. Now this person goes home and yells at their kids, right? And all this is transfer of energy, and no one's taking accountability to go, okay, wait, stop. I'm not going to let this person affect me. And I'm not going to take that home and dump it on my family. Right? It's just taking accountability. Like, let's stop this right now, and let's cut it off and go home and be happy. Right? So I watch this play out every day with humans and how we interact with each other. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, ever since you told me that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be really cognizant of the energy that I bring into the world.
Right.
Dogs are barking right now, so everyone can probably hear them over there. So going along with that, I would love for you to explain to us past life regression. I had like heard of it. You know, my therapist had brought it up as like a method to help me sort of like disconnect from my parents in this lifetime. And at the time that she told it to me, it's basically reincarnation. I really couldn't wrap my mind around it. And nothing really came of it. And then I had seen like a clairvoyant, and she had told me a little bit about a past life that she saw in me. And then at my latest training with you, for like the advanced certification, you had talked about it. And I was like, sign me up. When's your first availability? Let's get this on the schedule.
This is a couple signs already. There's a couple things pointing you in that direction.
Yeah. There was like 3, and then I was like, okay, I need to do this. So could you give us like an explanation of what it is, and how it can help us?
When we're born, it's interesting because we actually have memories of who we were in a past life. And usually at around 5 or 6, that starts to get shut off because adults tell us, oh, you must have seen that on the movie. You're making that up. You're just telling a story. You know, where'd you read that? But it's actually this pure memory coming through the child of who their soul was in a previous life. And so I'm so fascinated, and I can't wait till my son could actually tell me what he was before. But I think it's exciting to be able to understand what your soul has been through, it because it makes more sense of why you have certain tendencies. Why are you different from your parents? Why are you different from your sister or your brother? How come you have a natural pull to Paris, but nobody else in your family likes that place? Why are you afraid of being trapped specifically in a tunnel, but yet that's never been a problem in this life? Like, you've never had anything traumatic like that happen, right? So you have these things, even birthmarks, right? So it's like, oh, birthmark, where does that come from? How come I have that? Why is that there? Because we've had lives before this, and we're going to have lives after this. And I don't do the past life regressions to convince anybody that like this is real. I just want to experience it for themselves. And it's through hypnosis, a certain type of hypnosis, that they can relax and get the information, the memories to come back. Whether it's they hear the answers, they, with their third eye, see the answers, feel it in their body. So there's different ways that I see my clients experience it in hypnosis. But the beauty is you're telling me what you're experiencing and what your past lives were. I'm not telling you. And because you get to experience that fully during the session with me, it's your truth. It's different when a psychic tells you, hey, I saw that you were this and this in a past life. You're like, okay, cool, nice story. Maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't. But when you experience it yourself, it's undeniable. Like, why those visions? Why did I feel this? Why did I cry? Why was I so emotional? Why did I feel the pain in my knee as this was happening, or things like that? So I've done over 200 past life regressions for my clients over the last 7 years, and it's been beautiful. It's like watching the best movie ever. And I learn so much from listening to what's coming through. And it's really beautiful. And it gives us the opportunity to really help heal. Because maybe in this life, there's like a pattern that keeps continuing, and you're like, okay, that just seems like a pattern I can't break. Maybe it's even further than just this life. Maybe it's been in several lives. So if we can go back and see that, and then help you heal from that. I just think the more understanding you have of yourself, the more you can love and appreciate yourself and go, oh, that's where that comes from. Okay, I'm not weird. That's just where that comes from. And it's made me understand my husband a lot more. When he was my guinea pig, when I was first learning all this and I was practicing on him, he didn't think he was going to see anything. He wasn't sure he believed in it. And he saw 2 or 3 lives, and it just made so much sense about who he is. And I would tease him. His feet are like Fred Flintstone, and he was a caveman in one of his past lives. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm excited to do more with you. So I think it might actually be fun for us to share with the audience,
Yeah.
some of mine.
Yeah.
So I had 3, and it's like an awake hypnosis. Like that's kind of how I
Right.
feel. That's yeah.
Because I'm sitting there, and you're talking to me the whole time and telling me what's coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like one of those someone asked me, I was like, she did not like put something in front of my face and said, "You are falling slowly." It wasn't like
Nope.
that. It was definitely more of an awake hypnosis. And then for me personally, because you had explained to me that everyone feels it differently, like you might feel it in your body, you might hear, you might see. And I had 2 things. I had like, I could see it in my mind's eye, and then I could also feel it in my body. So when you would ask me a question, because Britt actually has a journalist background, she got her master's. You got your master's in journalism?
Yeah, my bachelor's in journalism, my master's in communication. Yeah.
So she's like,
I know what questions to ask.
so good. It's like
Yeah.
investigative. And sometimes she'd ask me a question and I'd be like, I'm not sure yet. But then I'd be like, okay, how does it feel in my body? And then I would like explain to her what I was feeling. So I had 3. And I think the first one, for that, I think the learning lesson, I'm still kind of integrating everything, but the learning lesson really was about my family. And in the first life, it was a medieval. I guess you could explain it as like I've had the first vision as an 8-year-old boy whose father died, and I felt as if my father was betrayed. And then I spent my whole childhood plotting how to really avenge his death, because the person who had usurped the throne was like had betrayed him. And I was king, and I had this like big masculine energy, but it was, I think, really what I really got out of that, like the learning lesson. I think I said that like light will always win over dark. And I was really proud of my family in that lifetime, and I felt really content with them, and like I felt as if I really like did everything that I could in that lifetime. What would you add to that?
Yeah, and I think you needed to see that you had a family life that was loving and connected, and you fought for each other, and you really wanted to avenge your father and do the right thing. It was about doing the right thing, not just for yourself, but for the people, because the leader that took over after your father did not do a good job, and people were very unhappy, and that lived there. And so I think you were trying to do the right thing for everybody. Yeah. But I was nice for you to see how close you were to your family, how much you loved your dad, how much he loved you, how much your mom, believed in you and stood by you and all those things. So it was really nice to see that family dynamic. Yeah. And then we realized that's where some of your masculine energy comes from. Also.
I got a lot of masculine energy.
Yeah.
Naturally, it's always like I'm always working to bring in more feminine. Then the second life, what kind of jumped was I was a young woman on the Titanic. I thought I was on the Mayflower, but Britt had asked me some more questions, and it all comes patchy. Like it's like you have to do like one thing at a time. It's kind of like a movie, like one scene at a time. And I was like, oh, like I feel really excited. I'm exploring, like I feel adventure. I'm on a boat. I was like, what? And I was like, I see a lot of people. This is a really, really big boat. And then it clicked, and I was like, oh, but I'm one of the poor people. Like I'm on the bottom.
That's what you said. You said, I'm on the bottom. And then that's when it clicked for me. I was like, maybe it's not the Mayflower. Maybe it is the Titanic. And she keeps saying there's so many people and it's really big. And there is this energy of like adventure, but unknown. Like you guys are all excited about going somewhere. And so I was like, that's when I said, are you on the Titanic? And then
Yeah.
oh yes, the Titanic. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Because I thought I was on the Mayflower, and then I died, and I felt myself dying in that life, and this is like where the whole body thing came in, where she was like, okay, like, what are you seeing now? And I was like, nothing. I can see nothing. I just feel like dark, and just I feel heavy, and then I felt peace.
Right.
Just lifted, and I was like, oh, I think I just died, which was such an interesting feeling. But the peace part felt really amazing, where it was like you just felt light afterwards.
That's probably like one of the top 3 things that people take away from doing this with me is they're not afraid of death anymore. And that's one of the biggest things my husband took away from this, was he never questioned after the session, like, what happens. He knows it's all going to be okay. He experienced the light. He experienced the peace that comes after when you transition, and it's not so final, right?
Mm-hmm.
Death is not so final. And you're just transitioning and moving to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah.
Your soul is still intact.
Yeah.
Even though your body, returns to the earth, your soul is still intact and everything's fine. And so a lot of people tell me after doing the sessions, like, I'm like, one of the biggest things is like, I'm okay with when it's my time. I'm not trying to die or anything. I just don't have that fear. I just don't have the fear anymore of death. And I know it's going to be fine. I know I'm going to be at peace. Yeah. So I'm glad you felt that. Oh, that's fine.
That's fine. So the third life, and I guess my learning lesson from the second life, and I cried on this one when it kind of came to me. It was like life is so short. Like, tomorrow is not promised to anyone. Have fun, enjoy, explore. And that means a lot to me. I like get emotional thinking about it now, because I'm so hard on myself. And it's like, I push myself and push myself and push myself to accomplish goals and meet, not like deadlines, but just like, my biggest fear is dying without having reached my full potential. And so in that lifetime, I really learned like what's even more important is like living and enjoying and being. And so that was like,
and I think a kind of lesson and promise you kind of made to yourself after that was that this was a life you were going to get to do all the things you didn't get to do in that one.
oh yeah.
It's almost like you kind of gotta not live for her, that part of you, but this is the life you get to do all the fun stuff. So do all the fun stuff, right? Because you can. And so, and I think in that life, you were on your way to America, and your husband was already there waiting for you. He maybe went ahead or something like that. And so I think there was so much promise, and you were so excited. Everybody was so excited. And then for that to happen,
Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, and it's really funny now that I think about it, is like, I had told this story to myself the last like 5 years that I don't like traveling. I was like, I don't like traveling. I'm a homebody. And last year I did so much traveling. I went to Australia by myself for a work trip. I took tons of trips down to LA. And I finally traveled again. And I think I told myself that story because growing up, I moved every 3 years, like with my dad being in the military. And so I really wanted a home base, and I just didn't like traveling. But last year I was able to see that, I can travel and have fun. And it's really fun to explore. It's really fun to go out and do these things and not like confine myself to my house.
Which is funny because remember I told you in that first life, your dad was in the military in this life. And it's interesting that like you and your dad, were, in the medieval times where you're king, and also you fought also to protect your people. So it's kind of interesting. But in that life, you had a home base.
I did.
You did. You had the castle.
Yeah.
In this life, you're all over, right? You move so much. So it could just be that little boy in you that just like wants to like. We had a home base. We had a castle that was home for us in that one.
Yeah, to be like stable. So my third life was actually the most interesting to me. And then like hindsight, when I look back on my life in this lifetime, I'm like, wow, that's why I was so into this thing. So I always feel weird explaining this one, but in a past life, I was a Greek philosopher, and I don't know who I was. I don't know if I was maybe like Socrates or Plato, or maybe even just a
One of
student,
their students. Yeah.
one of their students.
Yeah.
But I was a man. I was a Greek philosopher, and um, what did you ask me? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, like what do you do? And I think you just did not care about politics or the state of the world. Like all you wanted to do was like think and read and understand concepts and philosophy, and like that's all that you were obsessed with, and that's all that mattered. I don't think you even had a spouse, you didn't have a girlfriend, you didn't have
Nothing,
anything.
nothing. And
It
I
was
was like, I like to think.
yeah, you said I like to think, and it's just funny because we don't say that now, right? You call yourself an academic or you say a scholar or something else nowadays, but back then, like you were like, I like to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. And then, which is so funny because I was telling Britt, when I was in college, we had to take philosophy as like an elective. And you had, I think, one class that you could take as a pass or fail. And I took it pass or fail because I thought I would be terrible at it. And it was the one class in college, because I studied city and regional planning. So I like hated my major, hated all my classes. This is the one class I got an A in and that I was excited about. And I like would go to office hours and discuss the things that we talked about with my professor.
Yeah.
And so it all makes sense. And I love reading. I love thinking. I love just diving into.
You said something in the beginning of the session. You said, when I was young, for punishment, my parents would take away my books.
Yeah.
Because that's how much you love. I was like, that would never happen for me. Like,
No.
right? But that's how much you enjoyed reading in books, is that your punishment when you were little was like, okay, you can't read that book.
Yeah.
Time out or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
I get my books taken away.
Yeah.
So sad. I would never do that to my kids. Actually, I don't know. Maybe if they're like voracious readers, you have to. Because grounding, oh, you know what else would happen? I'm going to tell you this, but when I would get grounded, I would be grounded away from my room.
Mm.
I had to like sleep in the living room. Like that's how my parents would punish me. Isn't that the strangest thing? Because I loved being in my room. I was like, oh, I have all my books. I can read. Like I can isolate myself. I'm totally cool.
Yeah. Oh, that was you in the philosophy life. You just were so focused on like learning and thinking of concepts and really dissecting ideas and concepts and then teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were really happy you passed your knowledge on to some of your students in that life. We're really happy because not everyone had access. Rarely anyone back then had access to that kind of thing, to knowledge, right? To education, to is very few, and it was male
Yes.
who had
Yeah.
access to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was so cool to see. And what I learned from that lifetime is when we had, started our session, you had asked me, is there anything that you really want to get out of this? Like, what are the learning lessons? I asked my guides to guide me and to show me what life I needed to see in order to make, I guess, not the most use, but like to really live out this lifetime to its potential. And one of the things that had been really bothering me lately is like, how do I help people? Who do I help? From a entrepreneur perspective, it's really hard to market yourself when you do so many things. And it's like, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a fitness coach, I'm a nutrition coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a Reiki practitioner. Like I do all this stuff, and it's so hard to wrap it into one. And when Britt had asked me, what do you do? I said, it doesn't matter what I do. Like my role doesn't matter. And I was so clear on it. I felt like, so I'm learning. It doesn't matter what I do in this lifetime. Like I don't have to call myself anything. I don't have to like put myself into a box. I think it's what's most important is taking like one aligned action step at a time to enjoy my life and love my life as I'm doing it. And yeah, that's really what I got out of it.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, you're trying to help people.
Yeah.
That's really the goal, right? Is to help people and experience life. So you have experiences and things to share. What worked for you, what didn't work for you, and things like that. And like what we're even just doing now is just sharing. And maybe one person listening to this is have an aha moment, like, oh, okay, I get it, you know, or maybe that's what it is, or maybe that's why I feel so, you know, disconnected, or, you know, not, you know, why I feel like a calling to do this, even though my parents want me to be a doctor and engineer, but I feel like this deep calling to do this other thing, you know, maybe they did it several times in a past life,
Yes.
you know, so that's why it just feels natural. Like, I'm baptized Catholic, but I have Buddha everywhere in my office. And then I realized after seeing several past lives, I was Buddhist in several past lives. So that just feels more comfortable for
Mm-hmm.
me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was weird at first. I'm like, I'm baptized Catholic. Why do I feel so attracted to Buddhist philosophy?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not that
that
weird.
makes much sense.
Yeah.
And you had shared with me that some people are like, why would you do a past life? Like, what would
Mhm.
be the actual like benefit of it? And I like what you told me. You said it's the gift of knowing yourself.
Right. Better understanding yourself, better understanding what you've already been through, what your soul has been through. It actually makes this life seem so easy.
Yeah.
Like, how did we get so lucky to live in the United States, wake up every morning with a roof over our head and flick a switch and light comes on and turn a thing and water comes out? Like, how did we get so lucky in this life to land in this place?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a very exciting time, honestly, to be alive and have such awareness of what your soul has been through before. And I really encourage people to give themselves the gift of at least doing a session like this. And it doesn't have to be with me, but at least doing a session like this once in their life,
Yeah.
you know. And people will see different lives depending on where they are right now. So right now you needed to see these lives at this particular time to help you. A
Mm-hmm.
year from now, other lives will come up,
Mm.
right? That will make more sense for you at where you are at that point in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like after I have a baby, I want to do one.
Yeah. And you might, yeah, and you might see those lives that will give you clarity on, you know, your questions then. But
Another.
I think a lot of people also just want to know, like, what's my purpose in this life, or what lessons did I learn before that I don't want to have to keep relearning. Like,
Yes.
if I could just get oh, right, that's right, like, that's what that was. And then you can move forward confidently in this life and not waste, you know, the next 10 years figuring that out.
Yeah.
A lot of lessons and hard times.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Definitely. So one woman had asked if you could do this over Zoom or if it had to be in person.
The past life work.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to do it in person. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer to do all my sessions, honestly, in person. There's something about being there, holding space together, with each other's energies. I actually don't do any hypnosis work over the phone or over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love technology, but sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then that person is going to be relaxed in hypnosis, and I'm not going to be able to bring them out of it.
Yeah.
You know, if our technology gets cut off or things like that. So other people do offer, um, you know, over Zoom, but I don't. I do offer distance Reiki and life coaching over the phone.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's something we could do. Yeah.
Awesome. And then a couple other listener questions that we had was about Reiki specifically. She wanted to know if it's a one-time thing or if it's something that we should be doing over and over again. And you kind of did tell us your answer, but what would be like your punchy
I
answer?
mean, we 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 need a tune up, like your car,
Yeah.
right? You need your car to get serviced every so often. So I have people who want to see me once, you know, every week to start. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer not, but or twice a month to start, because they have a lot of work to do. But
Yeah.
then I get them to a place in a couple of months. I get them to a place where, oh, Britt, I only need to see you once every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Great, right? So my goal is to get them to a place where they don't need to see me so often.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to have a regular check-in with me. So I have a lot of clients who come once a month just for that 75-minute Reiki session. We touch bases, talk a little bit, and then the second half is the Reiki, and they just feel better, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But it's like bringing in your car for maintenance versus coming in after 5 years and going, oh my God, I had all this trauma. I know I didn't see you for 2 years, Britt, and like all this went on. Like, it's like, oh, okay. It's kind of like, you know, it takes a lot longer. It's like, okay,
The
let's
build
go
up.
back, let's talk, right? Versus someone who comes in on some kind of regular basis, you can see their progress, you know, faster and more on like a nice trajectory
Mm-hmm.
versus the person who only calls me when they're having emergencies.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about this all the time on this show, but we here are proactive people. We are not reactive people. So in order to have an intentional life and be proactive, you guys, like, schedule these things in.
Yeah.
Do it when you need it. And you don't always have to make investments in yourself like this when you're at rock bottom. Like, you can actually make an investment in yourself when you're like feeling great, because
Right.
then you feel even better. It doesn't have to be rock bottom.
And we all have something to work on. Like, we really do, you know, whether it's emotional stuff, spiritual stuff. I have people who come and do Reiki because they're going to do an interview and they want to be their best self and connected to their answers. And they, you know, and they do Reiki before their interview because they want their clarity and everything to flow good. So, everyone has different reasons for coming in, but some people just like their car tune up, right? Hey, I want to see you once a month, and I know I get to talk to you. And I've replaced some therapists because they end up not seeing their therapist and they just end up seeing me once or twice a month, and that's what they prefer. So
Yeah. And then the last question that we got was just about cost, which of course is going to be different based on where people live. But I think maybe even a better question is like, how can we make sure that the person that we are going to receive Reiki from is like the real deal? Because, you know, some people might charge $200 and it's not the real deal.
I think reading reviews and doing your research on the person. I like to put a lot of information about myself on my website. I don't understand why more people don't do that, because what I'm doing is so different. And half of my clients, it's the first time they're ever trying anything like this, which I commend them for. Honestly, half of my new clients, they're like, first time I've ever tried anything like this, but I need something, you know, and I've tried all these things and it hasn't worked, or I've tried all these different therapists and I haven't connected with them. Right. So I think reading the person's website, reading the reviews, seeing how you feel. I've had people look at my reviews and look at my website for 3 months and then go, okay, yeah, she's the one. Right. Like, they're like, okay, now's the time. She's the one. They've looked at other people as well, but they just feel connected for whatever reason. And their intuition was right. I also think just try one session. Yeah. Because if you don't connect and you don't feel that it was worth it after one session, then fine, but you tried, you know? Yeah. But I think reading some reviews about the person, seeing what other people have to say is kind of important. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't feel seen and heard by them, then I don't think it's a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter like what the cost is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, this is so great. I can't believe almost an hour already passed by. And I have one last question for you before I ask that question. Is there anything that you want to like leave the audience with, like just a final thought or a final word?
Oh boy. I just keep going back to, we're all here to heal ourselves and help others do the same. Okay. And I'm pregnant right now. I know the camera can't see my big belly, but you know, I have a daughter on the way and I already have a son, and it's a really exciting time. And I'm really happy I worked through a lot of my stuff before my kids came into this world, because I do not want to pass on my trauma, my experiences, negative experiences, and put that on my kids. I love our parents' generation, but it was a very different time back then. And we talk about how they focus a lot on Maslow's hierarchy, the basic needs of financial security, safety. And that's what the older generations tend to value a lot, right? They're not talking about like what made them happy back then. They're talking about making sure their family was financially okay and secure. And I don't think our parents or great grandparents had the tools to work on their trauma. And so therefore it gets passed down, you know? And I wanted to make sure I could work through my stuff, so when I brought kids into this world, you know, it'd be a very different experience for them. And so as women, I think that's something that we should think about, even if we don't plan on having kids, but just working on ourselves so that we take accountability and just work through our own pain and healing, and then be the best we can be for our family and for our kids and our future. So that's what excites me right now, and that's what I encourage others to do. but just you have the power to heal yourself. We all do. And that's the point, right? Is to keep healing, helping others, and doing good in this world and putting good energy into this world, because it really needs it right now. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen, girlfriend. You guys know why I love her so much now. And it was so nice to like be with you in person, because I've done so much of my work online, like working online with coaches, working online with my clients, and because you're in the Bay, it was so much fun to just like be in your energy. And I literally told her, I was like, whatever you do, I'll be there.
I really do like the one-on-ones in person, just for energy work. At least the first time when I'm working with someone, it is nice to be with them in person for the first session. Yeah.
Yeah. And Britt's inspired me and encouraged me to do more with Reiki in my own practice. And one of the things that I wanted to do this year is host a retreat in Mount Shasta. And it's like in the works, but now with the coronavirus happening,
I know.
know if it's the best time.
Right.
Unless only California residents are willing to like drive up to Shasta with me. But I
just made the decision last night to put my women's one-day retreat that was supposed to happen in April. I'm going to just push it back to the summer.
Yeah.
And that way everyone can come out confidently, right? I don't want people to have to make that decision. I want them to feel good about coming to it and coming out to it. And we'll have time, just give us more time to think about how we want to do it. So
yeah. So I was going to do mine in June, but it's going to be pushed out. But she's the one who gave me the encouragement and the inspiration, because Mount Shasta is the root chakra of the earth. And I was like, what? I need to go.
Oh, we're so close.
Yeah. It's right there. I knew the root chakra for me was a big thing to heal and to continue to heal, and to like put a lot of energy into my root chakra and my sacral chakra. So yeah, that was exciting. I'm so happy to have had you, and also just to share you with everyone, because literally like ever since we met in December, I bragged about you to everyone. I was like, oh, you should meet my she changed my life. So the last question that I ask everyone before we wrap up today's interview, but before we do that, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for how far you have come and all the work that you have done on yourself, so that you can then create this ripple effect. Because by helping me, like I've been able to help my clients, and they've been able to help their clients, and there's this huge ripple effect. So thank you for being you, and for following your heart, and not being a journalist, and for pursuing this work, because like you've touched me, and I had done so much work, and you were able to really help me clarify and heal. And it's been amazing. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge you for that. And
congratulations for yourself, because you stepped into this very open, and willing and ready to do the work. And I think that's really important, to come from that place, and then for the both of us to have trust.
Yes.
A lot of good things can happen from there. I know, I've just been flowing with it. People criticize me when I first started this business. My parents even looked at me crazy, like, you're going to do what? You're going to do what with your hands, and what? And my friends are like, wait, what are you doing now? Like, aren't you like a really good writer? Like, why don't you just stick with that? So I got a lot of funny looks in the beginning, and it takes people some time, to get used to it. But I understood they were coming from their place of understanding.
Yeah.
Not mine, from theirs. And over time they've called me and said, oh, I want to try a session now,
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me laugh, because in the beginning they were like, you're so weird, what are you doing? But you just have to trust, and I was really being guided, and what they showed me with my grandma is so undeniable, that it's my truth, and it's what I experienced, and I had to follow that. And then when I did see that past life where I was at war in a previous life, and I killed a lot of people in war, it made sense as to why in this life I meant to heal and help heal a lot of people. And so, it's kind of amazing how karma has played itself out. But I've never questioned, after that past life, I've never questioned this is the correct path for me in this life.
Yeah, I love that story. So last question, who are you at your highest self?
who am I at my highest self?
Yeah, there's a couple ways.
That's like a loaded question.
It is. Another like way, it's like it's like who, like, I don't know. Yeah, that's how I want to ask it this time. I ask it differently every time.
Yeah, I more so have a vision of myself when you say that. It's, you know, really being connected to my ancestors, connected to where I come from in Hawaii, and being able to connect there and still be here and helping people, and balancing out my love for being in my office and helping my clients with my love for being a good mom, you know, and a strong and, you know, amazing wife to my husband, and being a good friend and a good daughter, and just being there for everyone I love, but importantly, first and foremost, being there for myself, right? And so if I'm strong and I'm good and I'm rooted, my branches can extend in such a way that I still feel very grounded, rooted, and aligned at all times. And also, like I said, with being in flow with the universe and not putting too much tension on my goals and pressure on myself, it's kind of like if you're a surfer and you get up too quick on the board and like you're not with the wave and you're not riding it right, it's not going to work. You're going to miss the wave. And so it's kind of just like being in that flow with like trusting but putting in the effort, and like aligning myself to listen to my ancestors and my guides. And so I feel like when I can do that, that's my highest self.
Isn't she amazing, you guys? Like, how empowering is that? We're like, hell yeah. Thank you so much, Britt. I'm going to have all the ways in which everyone can contact you. But where do you hang out the most at? Like, where can we go and find you?
Instagram, and email me through my website. I don't really like text. I like email. As a mom, it gives me time to read through it and reply when I'm ready. I am going on maternity leave, I'd say around April 20th. But you can't keep me away for too long. I know I have a scheduled C-section. My husband would prefer if I would take, 3 months off, but I'm like, no, I would go crazy. Like, I need to go back and work with my clients and at least slowly get back into it. So I'm hoping by June I'll have this women's 1-day retreat, really, and then slowly start taking clients maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Yeah. But I have to see how 2 babies looks in my life right now, and how my time, being a mom, balances out with doing this work. But you can't keep me away from my clients too long. So.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, that's where you guys can find her, and hopefully she will come back as a guest. I mean, I hope you will. And that way we can share you with the audience again. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to like connect with me and to connect with us and just share your light. I loved it. If you guys love this episode, take a screenshot, post it on your story, and tag us. I'll have both our Instagrams linked down below. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was. I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. Bye for now. Oops. I almost ended the meeting.